Welcome, everybody. And I'd really like to give a big welcome to Mindy Corporon. Thank you for being part of our CANnonDo Business Forward Symposium, Resilience 2021. So glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Vicki.
I have a short introduction about Mindy before she gets into her topic. So if you can hang on with me so you know who this special person is, just one moment, please. Mindy's life purpose changed from guiding people financially as CEO of a successful wealth management firm to making it her mission to gather people to shine a light on peace. Mindy is the founder of Faith Always Wins Foundation and the 7 Days Make a Ripple, Change the World experience. She's the co-founder of Workplace Healing, LLC. In her podcast, Real Grief, Real Healing, she offers her audience the opportunity to hear from real people about their life-altering experiences and what steps they took and are taking to find healing. With compassion and forgiveness, Mindy shares her experience of loss as a daughter and a mother, a wife and coworker, both nationally and internationally. Mindy encourages and motivates audiences to overcome life's challenges one day at a time. Her topic is the healing of a shattered soul. When we are shattered by life, how do we reassemble ourselves? Thanks, Mindy, for being a part of our Resilience Symposium.
Thank you, Vicki. And I appreciate that you're putting this together for your followers, because I think it's really important and imperative in our world today in life that we do come together and help one another. And what you're doing, offering other people help, is very encouraging. So thank you for asking me to be part of this.
My pleasure.
So one of the things that I say often is, together we are better. And I learned this as a young girl. I learned this because I was on a gymnastics team. I know that I did compete individually, but I also was on a team, and it was part of our team score that helped us do well in our competitions. I was also part of a cheerleading squad. I didn't just perform individually. I was part of that squad, part of that team. And so I learned in sports, in my sports, that that working together often made it better. I mean, I could go out and do some kind of performance, a dance or something, and it might be okay. But then when I had my skill set put with someone else's skill set, we just did better together. And so I felt that for a long time, but it started to resonate with me significantly when a group of women came into my home to help take care of me and my family. And let me explain what happened. In April of 2014, specifically on April 13th, a neo-Nazi person, a man filled with evil who wanted to kill people of the Jewish faith. He was unfortunately well known in the KKK and in the white power movement. He had decided that he wanted to kill Jews. And that day he found himself at the Jewish community campus and then later at Village Shalom, where he murdered 3 people. And 2 of those people were my people. So the first person he murdered was my father, William Corporon. And then he turned the gun on my son, Reet Underwood, and murdered him. Reet was 14 years old and was there for a singing competition. And then he drove to the Village Shalom. He shot at people along the way. Thankfully, he did not injure anyone physically. But unfortunately, he also murdered Terry Lamano at the Village Shalom. So there were 3 people murdered on April 13th, 2014. And that incident shattered me. And you may be thinking, well, yes, it did. But I will tell you that at the time that it happened, I did not know how completely shattered I was. And many times we talk about how we all have brokenness. We all have things that have bothered us or upset us or hurt us. Pardon me. But I learned in about 2 years after that happened how completely shattered I was. So if you would just imagine a vase, a glass vase or something, certainly something that might even be very precious to you, is dropped on the floor and dropped on maybe a marble floor or a hard tile floor, and it is shattered into a million pieces. And you want to put it together, and maybe you can find all those pieces and you can put it together. But when you put it together, it's going to look different. It's going to feel different, the texture. It's going to look different. It's going to present differently. And that's who I became. That's who I am still becoming, based on how I was shattered, and then how I've been putting myself together. So I hope that and pray that none of you have anything as significant as family members taken out in a violent crime. I certainly hope that, but I also want you to know that I know that you all have grief. Right now, we all have COVID. We all have COVID-19 grief, and we are collectively grieving. I have a second son who was 12 at the time of the murders, and he's 18 now. And he was a 2020 high school COVID graduate, so didn't have anything that last semester of high school, let alone a graduation ceremony. And now he is a COVID freshman at the University of Arkansas. And that university is doing everything they can to really help those students stay on campus and be as engaged as they can and try to be somewhat normal. But Lucas even still is in a grieving process with his life, that things are in upheaval. And so if you would, think about what in your life has caused you upheaval or caused you grief. And if it is COVID, that's an easy thing to come to mind. If it's a pet loss, if it's something going on with your family member, a parent or a grandparent, or someone that is close to you that has had a significant diagnosis, and that can cause a lot of grief. So and life changes cause grief. They cause us to have a disruption where we need to understand that we need to care for ourselves. So I after Vicki asked me to, I actually sat down and wrote out what has helped me achieve what I think is putting myself back together, even though I know I feel differently and I look differently and I actually talk about things in a different way. But I did have to reassemble myself. And so if you're in the process of that, or you know someone who's in the process of that, I hope that these things that I've written down help you. I'm not going to share my screen, but I am going to let you know that I know Vicki is making available to you a worksheet that I did put together. And on the front of the worksheet, you're just going to see some things that I'm talking about. And on the back of the worksheet, if you've printed it out, you can take notes if that's something that you want to do. So when things happen and they cause us grief, I have realized that I needed to sit in the pain. I needed to feel the pain. So as much as you don't want to feel the pain, you really need to, because that is a natural, healthy environment for you to be in. So it is healthy for us to have joy and happiness, and but it's also a natural for us to have sadness and for us to feel pain, either because we slammed our hand in a door or because our heart is hurting. When people experience sadness and a grief, our hearts really do hurt. So I know if you've had a grief happen, you know what I'm talking about. You do feel the physical feeling of that pain. So I think it's important that you feel the pain. And let me give you a couple of examples of how I experienced that. When you sit in the pain, I want you to know that it will wash over you at some point. And I'm asking you to allow yourself to cry. For 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, I did not wear eye makeup. Now today I put on a little bit more. I put on some blush and some lipstick so you could see me better. And I did put on some of my lovely green eyeshadow that I love, because I have green eyes. But I don't put mascara on very often because I still cry. I still, in talking about my dad and Reet, and I will tear up. Just before I got on to help Vicki with this and record, I was talking to a friend who they lost their dog, and I started tearing up because she was telling me about this emotional experience. And so I just decided I frequently don't wear mascara because I don't know when those tears are going to come. And I have learned that those tears are necessary. So even if you don't want to cry or you're embarrassed about crying in front of people, here's what I would like you to do. I'd like you to find a safe environment, comfortable enough for you to crumble on the floor, okay? Find a safe environment where you can cry and you can let it all out. And cry as long and as often as you need to when this pain comes up. And it's healthy to get those tears out. And then when you think that you've cried enough, play a sad song and cry a little bit more, because I just want to emphasize how important it is to get that pain out And the way to get that pain away from you for at least a short period of time, even if it's a minute or 2 minutes, is to let those tears out. I called it emptying my heart. So my heart would fill and fill and fill, and I would feel this heaviness, and then something would break it open and it would spill out. And then my heart would feel clean and cleansed again, and I would be able to move forward just a little bit. Be sure and pray out loud in whatever faith you have or represent, or what faith feels good to you. I liked to pray out loud in my safe room, in my space. I also like to journal. For me, praying out loud is a lot of journaling. I did a lot of journaling. Be cognizant about being around people that you feel comfortable with when you're in pain, because I'm asking you to feel it. And when you're feeling it, it's very raw. And but feeling it is a healthy thing. I want to make sure you understand that that is normal. So I want to let you know that numbing that pain is different from finding comfort with the pain or away from the pain. So finding comfort might be something like snuggling up in bed and watching a bunch of movies and binging on something because you're trying to just forget about what's bothering you. That could be comfortable. But things like alcohol and some kind of painkillers or sleeping aids, those can be numbing, and they can be detrimental because they stop you from feeling the pain because you don't want to feel it. And I understand that, but I'm telling you, the very first thing that you need to do when you want to be resilient or find a way through something is to sit in it and feel it and allow yourself to process it through crying. Another step that I took a lot was really just learn to breathe again. And you may be thinking, well, I breathe every day. I have to breathe. Well, I mean, really learning to breathe again. When grief hits us, we stop breathing like we should. And oxygen doesn't go to our blood cells as well. Therefore, our brain gets very foggy. And this is going to happen no matter what kind of grief you have. So really practice breathing. And one of the best ways to breathe as easily as possible is to get sleep too. So sleep is needed. Well, during COVID, we've all had grief, but if you've experienced a significant grief, you may remember that it's exhausting. Grief can really wear you down emotionally, physically, and so you do need to sleep more. So if you need to schedule time to sleep, if you need to let people know you need to go take a nap, if you're just sleeping longer than normal during the evening, that is definitely a healthy thing to do. Because the other thing that's going on during sleeping is you're breathing and you're just in that meditative sleep state, and it's healthy for you to get that sleep. It's healthy for us to get sleep anyway, but when we're grieving, we need more. I'm going to mention journaling throughout. Journaling helped me breathe. I would literally write the word breathe, and then I would take a breath, and let's do that together. One more time, breathe in. Just calming us. And if you are erratically trying to fix something or control something, stopping and breathing helps clear us and clear our minds and clear what we're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to fix that grief, I just would recommend that you practice breathing and remember that you need to be able to breathe. In terms of learning to breathe again, I started taking yoga. I wasn't much into yoga before 2014, but I needed practice breathing, and yoga helped me breathe. Just gentle stretching helped me breathe. And then also, I had been a swimmer before, and I started swimming again. And I went back to swimming laps. And when you're swimming, you have to breathe. You have to turn your head to the side and breathe, and turn your head to the side and breathe. And it becomes this rhythm of breathing. And that was so healing for me. I know that yoga by itself, just stretching and yoga, and then swimming by itself, being in water, are very healthy for us. But part of what you have to do when you're doing those two exercises in particular is you have to breathe in like a sinking way. And I mean SYNC in terms of that sink, not sink, S-I-N-K, in a pool of water. So I just want to emphasize that the importance of sitting in the pain and then learning to breathe. And then the next step I want to mention to you is ask for assistance. So let me circle back to these women who came into our household. So I had these women in my life. They were called, and still are called, women who mean business. And I had fostered relationships with these women. And you can foster relationships, whoever you have a relationship with right now, whether it's a group from your synagogue, if it's a reading group, if it's a group from your church, if it's a group from a mosque, wherever you get this group, if it's moms or dads who have kids the same age as your children, if it's a group of people that they're all engineers and they're your people because you love talking about whatever you're doing in engineering, whoever your group of people are, when you have a significant grief, a significant event happen in your life and you are struggling and you are shattered, you are broken or you're shattered, you really need to ask for assistance. And so much in life, so many of us don't want to ask for help because that's seen as vulnerable. Well, I just have to tell you, I could hardly breathe. When my dad and Reet had been murdered, I could hardly function. And these women came in our home and they filled it with life and they helped. And I learned from that experience that when they offered help, I took it. And so if you have the opportunity and you need to ask for assistance, if someone doesn't know that you need help, you need to reach out and ask. It's okay to ask for help. And maybe you get help from somewhere like your place of worship. Maybe you get help from people that you have relationships with, like I mentioned. And what they helped me with in particular is they helped with food. They brought food to our home. In the first 2 weeks, people actually had to help feed me because I wasn't eating. Typically, when we get stressed, we either overeat or we undereat, neither of which are healthy. Neither. But that's what we do. We either stress eat or we stress don't eat. We stress starve ourselves. And I was starving myself and I didn't eat for 4 days until somebody sat in front of me and said, what would you eat? And I said, well, I'd eat a Snicker bar and a Coke. And that's what they brought me. I ate Snicker bars and Coke and drank Cokes for a couple more days. And then I moved on to shrimp. Don't ask me why. Maybe because that's what Reet loved. Maybe because my son Reet loved shrimp. So I asked for assistance, and when they offered it, I took it. So if you're not willing to ask for assistance, but someone offers assistance, then please be willing to take it because they want to give to you. They want to help you in your state of grief. And that's one way that you receiving it, you're actually helping them by letting them help you. If you're in a working environment, be sure and speak up at work about your state of mind and your capacity. Please don't be fearful about, and I hope that you don't have to be fearful about letting your boss or your coworkers know that you're struggling with something. It's so important that we communicate with one another about where we are, because I know that when I went back to work, I wanted so badly to be 100%, and I was not. I was not 100%, and it took effort to get back to 100%. And so give yourself grace, but also let your people know at your work that you're struggling. And then as it gets better, you can let them know when it's getting better also. The other thing that these women did at our home, I want to let you know, is they answered phone calls for us. They walked my dog. They did my laundry. They scheduled appointments. They drove me. I didn't drive a car for 10 days. So there are so many things that as humans and then as friends that we can do for one another. I suggest that you either ask for assistance or you take assistance from people. I'm going to move on to a second stage that I entered into, and it was called Recognize Reality. So when bad things happen, we tend to compartmentalize, and because we don't want that bad thing to have happened, and so we might set it aside. It's really important, just as important as sitting in the pain, that you recognize reality. Again, journal your feelings. If you pray to God or pray to Allah or pray to just the heavens and earth, write it down and journal it. Get out those emotions. Get them out on paper. because that's really helpful. Also, when you're recognizing reality, you might realize that you do need some kind of medical assistance. You might need to seek professional help, either in the form of counseling or in the form of medication. So I sought help for both. I did take sleeping. I took a sleeping pill for about 6 weeks to help me sleep because I was having nightmares. And then I weaned myself off. My doctor and I weaned myself off of that. But I did need help sleeping. And then I needed help with counseling, with emotional counseling. I needed a third party to talk to about the chaos that was going on in my life. And so I sought help, and I highly recommend that that you do take time and look at reality and think, do I need help to get through this brokenness that I'm in? Be sure and check in with your people in your life, your other people. So your siblings, if you've got siblings that are involved, be sure and check in with children, either your own children or children of others, and your parents and friends. Check in with them and see how they're doing and how maybe they were impacted, and ask them, how do they think you're doing? I would ask people along the way, they'd say, gosh, you just seem so strong. And I was like, really, I don't feel strong. But I would check in with them, and I would ask them, how are they doing? And we would have conversations about that. And this is in particular with my husband and my son and my mom. And I would talk to them about how they were doing to find out, because grief does affect not just us, that affects the ripple of people, the group of people around us. So you experience pain, you learned to breathe, and then now you're in the reality setting, and now I'm going to ask you to learn to walk. So once you learn to breathe, I want you to be able to learn to walk. And what does that mean? It means that I don't want you to stay alone. If you have been crying alone and journaling alone, now I'm going to indulge you. I'm going to ask you to move out into a group setting, and don't be quite so alone, because we need other people around us, and we need people that perhaps have experienced some of the same things that we've experienced. Now, while I'm asking you to not be alone, I also want to ask you to be picky about your social outings. If your heart is tender, if your heart is aching, then protect it. It's your heart to protect. And I protected my heart for about 2 years. So it takes a while, depending on the level of grief and level of pain that you've experienced. But I was very picky about social outings and social gatherings for 2 years before I would engage. I might go engage with someone in a social outing, but I would make it quick, and I would be very specific about why I was there and how long I would be there. Also, in this kind of second stage that I'm calling it, you want to accept membership into where you are and who you're with. So for instance, I have accepted membership that I'm like a member of someone who lost a child. I'm also a member of a group that lost people to violence, lost people to gun violence. So that is my reality. My reality is that. And other groups are, being a widow or a widower, or being divorced. I'm also in the group of people being divorced. And I think once we say to ourselves, I'm in that group, we can find companionship in that group. And we can engage with others, and we can learn from what they did. We can learn from their healing process as well. When we find people that have experienced somewhat of what we've experienced, they do know our pain. And maybe they heal differently, but we can engage with each other. And so that's what I mean by when I say accept membership. Accept membership into the club that you're now part of. And I can't tell you how many moms and dads who, when they hear me speak publicly and meet me, they will come up and hug me, and they will say, I'm a member of the club. And I know what that means, and my heart can feel their heart. And it's just that whole thing, together we're better. That's what we do with each other, is that we help build one another up. Be sure and listen to people who've experienced the same heartache that you've experienced, and listen to what they have to say, because they will be able to help you. So my kind of third next step for you is to let you know you will find joy. You will find your smile, and you will feel your heartbeat again, and it won't be painful all the time. You can get out of this. I am just a testament to that. You can create joy. I want to let you know the first time I found joy was we traveled to Nashville, Tennessee with another couple, my husband and I, and some great music was playing in Nashville. We were like, listen to all the country music, and I love country music, and I heard a song that I loved, and I got up to dance, and I started to feel joy, and I cried. And I was so guilty. I felt so guilty about feeling joy. And that was the first time I felt it. And it was a good practice. I started practicing, realizing that I could find joy again. So I want to tell you that joy will arrive, and it can jolt you back to fear and pain. And then joy will arrive again, and you may cry through and that half smile, and you may feel guilty. I felt guilty. But joy will continue to find you because it's part of who we are as humans. Your heart will ache, but it will pulse with the idea of those fond memories that also bring you joy. So those memories bring me so much joy. And you can have joy and tears at the same time. Joy and tears can go hand in hand as they comfort us. So we've learned to breathe, we've learned to walk, and now I want us to learn to run. Literally, I want you to find an activity that you've not done before, whether that be ping pong or pickleball or fast walking or maybe entering a 5K, but literally try to find something that is physical for your body, because when we're trying to heal, when I was trying to heal, it is your entire body. It's your mind, it's your soul, and it's your physical presence. So take your family out of the house and go somewhere when you can, when your family is okay to go somewhere for COVID and your area is okay. So make sure this is COVID safe, but take your family on a trip or a vacation. We literally get out of the house and do something in a physical sense. Now in your work setting, I want you to be speaking up more in group settings and at work about where you are with your grief. Again, be sure and let your coworkers know what your capacity is, because you want to get back to 100% and you want to let them know how they can help you get there as well. And then finally, I want to let you know that what I'm doing right now with you, I'm sharing my soul. And that's why I've written a book and I'm about to take it to publication, and it's called The Healing of a Shattered Soul, because I realized that my soul was shattered, but that the way that it's healed, all of these things I've given you, but also sharing. When I share how to help you, when I share how to help others, that helps me heal. So whatever it is that you want to share with others, if it's time, if it's talent, if it's information about what you've done, or information that you just know because you're educated in a certain way, when you share with others, you're helping them heal, and you're going to help yourself heal. When we give of ourselves, we are lighting the light in our hearts. And I can feel my heart lighting while I'm talking to you. And my heart was previously dimmed by grief, but the spark that we create, it'll flicker and it might burn out a few times. But this is so important because we want to light it again and again, and we want to keep lighting it because our light shines as it is shared with others who now need our help. And they need our hands to hold so that we can hold hands together on this journey. And I hope that I've been inspirational to you. People tell me, oh, you're inspirational, and I don't feel it myself. I just know that I've survived, and I know that I had to reassemble myself. So I've tried to share with you really some practical ideas that I hope that each of you can take in your life's journey. Vicki, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, Mindy, for sharing so many great things. I really like how you broke this down into the basically three different ways, three different steps or stages, and each one of those have three things in them. Threes really work well for people to grasp, because you can do three things. And you start with one and then you move on. So I really enjoyed that. And sharing your resilience with us has been such a blessing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate it. And again, I think it's wonderful what you're doing for everyone that follows you and that you work with. And they need to share this with other people. I know you're going to have on some other great people too to talk about their resilience. And I appreciate being part of it.
Yes, thank you so much.